All right, howdy from Windy, Wyoming. Glad to have you here with me. I'm going to turn our Bibles to Second Chronicles chapter 35, verse number 10. Second Chronicles 35:10. Today we're going to talk about classroom setup and then cleanup at the end of class. And Second Chronicles chapter 35, we'll be looking at verse number 10. The scripture says, So the service was prepared, and the priests stood in their place, and the Levites in their courses, according to the king's commandment. And so this morning we're going to be talking about how do we get set up. So before we go and set everything up, we want to make sure that our rooms have been cleaned. Floors should be vacuumed, trashes should be emptied out. The room should have a nice smell to it as well. Shouldn't smell like dirty feet or something like that. So we want everything to smell and look clean and ready. And then, something to think about, and this is more, maybe not every week, but more like on a yearly basis, is there fresh paint on the walls? Do the walls look nice? Is just overall is the room in good shape? And so it doesn't hurt to put some paint on the walls and make them look nice. If you want to be creative, you can paint pictures on the wall and do different things. So that's actually a picture, and then there's a wood frame put around it, try to make it look like a window on a cabin wall is what we're going for there. You can't see it, but there's an elk up in the corner, some elk horns and stuff like that. There's just some different decorations. And so making it so it's clean, inviting, and something for the children. Actually, in the picture behind me, there's a bunch of stuff hidden. There's cows, and there's elk and deer and antelope and a rabbit and all kinds of different things hidden throughout the picture for the kids to try to find. And so, they enjoy that kind of thing. And so we want our rooms to be clean and tidy. And as we start setting things up, we want to set up our room in such a way to be effective. I like to set rooms up short and fat. I like to be close to my students. And so I want them as close as possible. So if you have kind of a rectangle room, I'd rather set it up so that the children are facing the thinner way. And so I'm close to every child rather than standing way in the front and having a whole bunch of rows of children and there being children way in the back. I'd rather keep them all real close to me. I like a semicircle setup, and so we set them up in some kind of a semicircle. And that way I can see all of them and can move around the room freely. And if I have something I want them to even, here, you want to touch this, I can easily navigate that setup. There's not rows that I'm having to work through. Everybody's facing me, and it works really well. Now, if you have a larger group, that may not always be the most efficient, so you'll have to play around with that and figure out the best way to do that. But it's been shown that the semicircle is a great learning environment where everybody can kind of see each other, but you can see the teacher, and the teacher can easily interact with the students. And so we want to get all the seats set up, make sure that we have extras in case there's guests. We want to make them feel welcome if they come in and make sure they have seats. And then we want to make sure that the distractions are to the back of the room. So if there's a door or a window, set that to the back of the room and put the children's back to that so they're facing you and not looking out the window or out the door. Doors have windows on them so you can see out in the hallway. So every time somebody wanders out of the service and down the hallway, we don't want them to be distracted. So we try to set them so they face away from that. The next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we have everything set up that we need for class for that day. Where's the whiteboard at? Where's the markers at? The eraser? Make sure those things are ready to go. If you're giving out candy, make sure the candy bowl is sitting out and ready to go. What are you going to pick up the offering in? If you're going to play a Bible review game, is it spread out and ready to go? So we have the benefit, we have a class that's divided, has a divider in the middle, so we pull the divider, we teach on one half, and we set up our games and other activities that are more involved on the other side. And so we just simply take the children from one side of the wall to the other as needed. So we can set up the game. It's in the back of the room and nobody can really see it until we get to game time. And so we want to make sure all of those activities, games, everything is set up. The smoother we can transition from activities, the less time there is for distractions, less time there is for misbehavior. And so we want to keep things flowing and smooth to the best of our ability. So we want to set class up, have everything ready so that when we're standing up there teaching, we're not looking for things. Everything's right there in front of us, and we can efficiently and effectively teach our children. And then the preparation for next week starts at the end of class as we start to tear the class back down and prepare for the next week. So there's some things that need to go home, so we want to make sure that we get those in folders or whatever we take those home in, so that we have the materials we need to review for next week. If you have to file curriculum, make sure that you get that set aside so that can be filed. And anything that you've used in class then needs to be put away. And so in our ministry, we put everything away every week. And one of the reasons why we do that is because there's multiple use. Other people come in and use our rooms at other times. But also it keeps track of our stuff. And so make sure when you're putting things away, you put everything away. You got a game, make sure you get all the parts and pieces and that they all get back into the container they belong in, so that we have them for the next time. Using a salvation illustration, get all those parts and pieces put back away so that they are, next time you go to use those can be found, or if somebody else is using those, that they have all the parts and pieces. And so it's important to put things away. I found if they don't get put away, they get cluttered and your room becomes very cluttered and parts and pieces get lost. And so just every week try to put everything away that's not needed. Now there are times, if we're playing a game, sometimes we'll play a game multiple weeks in a row. And so we may set the game aside somewhere in the room for a week, but we still put it away. We put it either in a filing cabinet or set it somewhere out of the way so that it can stay there, and then the next week we use it again. But once we're done with that game, we make sure we put the whole game away, and that way it's all back where it belongs and we can find it later. And so that's all part of the preparations. And then we just want to make sure everything gets put back, everything to the teacher resource areas, and that's pens, papers, markers, everything that we use gets put away and ready so that the cleaners can come in and clean before our next service. And it just keeps everything neat and orderly. And it helps us as we teach to be able to teach efficiently as we work with our children. So hopefully this is helpful. Just remind us to keep things neat, clean, tidy, make sure we're putting things away, and make sure we're set up before class. Nothing like trying to find a marker in the middle of class. Been there, done that, and does not make for smooth transitions. And so just want to make sure we think about all those things before we start. So thanks for joining in today. I hope this has been a blessing, and Lord willing, we'll see you next time.